Most welcome to this session hosted by Smart City Sweden. My name is Anna-Jana Hammar and I will be your host today. We are a visit platform that initiates collaboration between Sweden and other countries in questions related to smart and sustainable city solutions. The platform consists of over 1,000 companies, 8 governmental agencies and 6 offices that provide know-how and solutions to city challenges. Smart City, we welcome stakeholders and decision makers that are interested in finding solutions and implementing them in their local context and offer visits, online meetings and study visits. Today we're going to discuss social sustainability in cities and we're going to discuss health, inclusiveness and placemaking. Firstly, we welcome Lisa Klingvall from Uppsala Municipality, Robert Meijer from Swedish Environmental Protection Agency, and Sandra Frank from Arvet, and we are going to discuss health in cities. Robert Meijer, you are working with health aspects in city planning, and you also have a medical degree. What would you say is what does a healthy city mean to you?
Thank you for inviting me. And I would say that a healthy city for me is a city where it's easy for everyone to make healthy life choices, and a city that is designed to automatically promote physical and mental and social well-being. And I would say that a city that's built around inclusiveness and equity, both in the ways that we plan the city and the process of planning it.
Okay. So what would you say are the main challenges when it comes to healthy cities?
Well, I would say that we have 2 main challenges today. The first one is that we work too much in silos. A city is made up of many different sectors, and one sector's decision affects another sector's outcomes. But the norm today is that we still have these separate budgets, we have separate targets to meet, and we're not really fully taking advantage of the opportunity for synergistic solutions that in the end would be better for both sectors. So I think instead of seeing the different sectors and their goals as competing, we should see them as opportunities to create collaboration and to find novel solutions together. And the second one I would say is to bridge the gap between what we know and what we do today, to bridge the gap between research and implementation, and then try to figure out how do we scale up these working solutions that we see today, because there is a lot of good examples out there.
So what would you say? Because urban development is going very fast, and even in Sweden we have a rapid urbanization. How can we scale up? What do you see are the main problems that we need to solve in order to work more between different sectors?
Well, I think that's a very, very good question. And I would say for us as an agency, we try to have this bird's eye view and try to see what's happening in Sweden, what's happening in other countries. And our role is sort of to provide guidance and to spread the good examples that we see to different municipalities in Sweden, and sort of provide support to their work and also to research. But I think that Lisa from the Uppsala municipality is actually more equipped to maybe talk about the concrete examples and how they can work with it hands-on, because in Sweden it's mostly the municipalities that work hands-on with the city planning.
Yeah, so therefore I welcome you, Lisa Klingvall. You are working as an urban planner strategist in Uppsala municipality, and you're also a landscape architect. What does a healthy city mean to you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I can only agree with everything that Robert said. Very well put. I have to say that for Uppsala municipality, we are looking into breaking the sedentary lifestyle that has become more and more widespread in all ages, and especially now during the pandemic. We're also, of course, looking into the fossil-free environment. So we need to be fossil-free by 2030 and also climate positive by 2050, and that affects a lot of how we plan on new urban areas. But we're also looking into accessibility, of course, for everyone to be able to participate in the city and the life on their in their own ways, regardless of how your accessibility issues, if you have any, but also the walkability we're talking a lot about, but also the playability now, that us as parents, we don't let our children out because we are scared of the cars. So how can we change the way we look at the streets, for example? We are looking at Paris, they are now shutting off streets. London and New York are doing the same, and we have the opportunity now that we are planning new parts of Uppsala to leapfrog and plan these streets from the beginning, so that we do let our children out, they can go to school and walk to their areas where they want to be, and also for us as adults to start walking to work, to take the bicycle to work. So how do we plan a city for more active and a more active lifestyle?
I would really like to talk a little bit more about this with children, and that they are not moving that much anymore. So how can you, as a city planner, how can you emphasize that and make them more movable?
Yeah, I think that it has several different parts to it. I think one is what we already touched upon, that us as parents stopping our children from going outside. Therefore, we have to work with traffic. How do we create safe environments outside? But we also have to think of, what do kids want to do outside? There's a lot of focus on the younger children, on play areas and stuff, but all these active streets that we see now, that you can have basketball courts, you can have the place to hang out, you can charge your mobile phone at the same time, and how can you create areas where you can be on the stage, as we say, if you want to be seen and heard, and you can also be backstage if you just want to look. And also, so we create areas for kids to hang out. We also, a lot of discussion is about that youth are a problem. Hanging out youth is an issue, but at the same time we want them to go out. So we have to be a lot more acceptant and allowing youths, and we have to involve them. What do they want? Life has changed a lot since I was a youth. I think it's not that long ago, but obviously it is. So what do today's youth want to do in a city? And we also have to provide areas where it doesn't cost to participate, which is very important, I would say. In Uppsala, we have something called Sportis. I don't know the English word for that, but it's basically an after-school club where you can go that is free of charge, and you can try all different activities, sports, and you can also try, gaming if you don't have a computer at home that can support a good gaming environment. So you can do it. We have to, be more open in our thoughts about what youths want out of a city.
How would you say, how do you know what these young people want in their neighborhood?
Have to talk to them. I think that's the thing. You have to talk to them. I think at a big, like in a city plan, we have to allow for the areas, but how we program the areas, we have to have citizen participation with youth. So we have to secure the areas, we have to make sure that they are there, but how we fill them, it's up to the youth. Because if we look at our projects, we build over 35 years, 40 years, and a lot of things do change during this time. And therefore, every time we have to bring in youth to say, what do you want? We know they want something, but we don't know what.
So back to you, Robert, about the health for young people. What would you say are the main challenges when it comes to the young people? And what gains can we see if we do better planning in our cities, as Uppsala now are working with? So what health aspects can we improve for the young people?
Well, I think there are several different health aspects that we can work with using city planning. And several of them Lisa already mentioned here, like ways to do that. And I think if we think about physical health, then it's not only children, it's for everyone living in a city. We have the obvious ones, as we can create better sound environment, we can create better air quality. And of course, as we talked about now, we can create more opportunities for physical activity. And then we also have the social aspects to provide opportunity for meeting people and create a sense of community and belonging, which is also very important for our mental well-being. And I think also another aspect is to create equity and equality in health, to plan a city that makes it easy for everyone to make these healthy life choices. And I try to continuing on what Lisa said here about getting this physical activity increased. And I think one of the lowest hanging fruits there is active mobility, because we have to move around. We usually have to get from point A to point B, maybe not as much now during the pandemic, but normally at least. And then sort of making these these options where we're active more attractive, and make children take more walking, cycling, and to do that we need to make the public spaces that are convenient and accessible for everyone, and they need to feel safe, as Lisa talked about, and also be inviting. It needs to be spaces where we want to spend time. And what we've seen is that usually means a lot of green, blue spaces, access to nature. So I think if we sort of try to design the public spaces with this in mind, then we will sort of get more physically active automatically, because that will be the attractive option for moving around.
Yes, I'm going to let our third guest in here in this talk, and we have Sandra Frank, who works at Arvet, and you are co-owner at Arvet. And of course, the city also have a lot of buildings, and you are working with some specific buildings.
Yes, we took a very important decision about 10 years ago now, that we only develop and build houses out of wood, timber buildings. And I've been listening both to Lisa and Robert here now, and especially talking about the noises in a city and the air quality. There is something very fantastic, I would say, with the wooden buildings, where you can prefabricate as much as possible off-site, and you don't have to have this noisy construction area for such a long time in the city center. For example, our houses that we have built has been built up to 80% up in the north of Sweden, where there's lots of labors and also lots of spaces and forests. So, and then it's prefabricated both with the beams, the facade, the gypsum on the inside, and the windows. And then they come down to the city and we just mount it, which means that we need about 10% of the transports in the city. And also it's a very quiet construction area. So it's because it's a lot of difference in just screwing a house together than working with hard concrete, and you have to
drill
and so on. So both with the sound and the particles in the air, there is a fantastic way, and something that we all need to think about in the future, I think.
So do you see that there are other health aspects, like indoor environment and issues like that for wooden houses?
Yeah, the indoor environment is very something special. I have actually been working quite a lot in one of these houses the last year, and it's the quietness inside is fantastic. It's a little bit like, I guess, like fabric and soft materials that absorb the sound. But also when we talk to the people that lives in these houses, they say that it's so quiet. But when I talk to acoustic specialists, they also say that it's not just that it's quiet, it gives us human beings a peace, a state of peacefulness in the body.
Okay. So how are you thinking also about the houses in the surroundings? Are you also planning these issues, or are you involved in the detailed planning?
Yeah, very much so. And For example, we've been thinking about that this last year a lot, because it's so obvious to all of us what Lisa is saying. It's that we need to move. We need to move our physical body, but we also need to take care of each other. We need this, the kind of happiness that you get talking to another person, helping a neighbor, and how can we as a developer support that? And it's also by planning for small shops in the where you walk, so that you can see something, you can say hello to somebody. It's a cafe or a flower shop or whatever, and it's something also that makes you want to walk, makes you want to walk a longer distance because something is happening.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Lisa, how are you thinking about wooden houses or these kind of things in the city planning? Or is this something that you discuss or plan for?
It's all the rage, I would have to say. I think that at the moment we are building quite a few wooden houses in Uppsala, but also with our very high set goals about becoming fossil free and climate positive by 2015. It's one of the only ways forward at the moment. The southern eastern districts of Uppsala municipality are looking into this as the solution to start off with. It's the only way at the moment that we know how to build really sustainably in the city. And we will host this urban planning expo in 2029, and hopefully we can show a lot of these wooden structures by then, and maybe some other technical solutions that has come a long way by then.
To talk about the technical solutions, often we focus on the technical solutions, and I think, Robert, you mentioned this, that we need to cooperate in between different knowledge areas, between different actors. I mean, this is really something that needs to happen. I mean, you can't just solve the city planning with just some technical solutions. So how do you see that? What can you, as the authority here in Sweden, what can you provide and give solutions or help the city planners with?
Well, I think, first of all, that we in Sweden are quite good at technological and technical innovation in general, and it is an important part of the solution. But as you say, it's not the whole solution. And I think the key here is to sort of harness that innovative spirit and apply it to how we think about planning cities. And I think actually focusing on building a healthy city is a great way of doing that, because health is a very complex issue, and it forces us to take a step back and look more holistically at the different aspects that sort of goes into building a city. And I would say, just to take an example, let's say that we in our city then want to cut the emission of greenhouse gases, and then we decide to switch out all fossil fuel vehicles for electric vehicles. I mean, that's a good solution. We accomplish our goal. But if you then look at it from a health perspective, we will still have these problems with particles being released that affect our air quality. We will still have noise pollution. It will still require infrastructure. And that would take up a lot of valuable space, as Lisa mentioned, about space for children playing and so on. And it will also promote a sedentary lifestyle. So then the question is, if you look at this from a health perspective, is then electric vehicles, is that the healthiest option? And I think, I mean, sometimes it is, because we still might need vehicles in cities, but for most cities, I would say that there are better solutions. And I think if by focusing on health, we can sort of change the way that we ask the questions from how do we make vehicles as sustainable as possible to more, do we need vehicles? Can we make a city more accessible? Can we create better mobility? Can we use active and public transportation? And I think in the end, then we will still have reached this goal of lowering the greenhouse gas emissions, but we would have so many more added benefits to it. So I would say one of our, like, as an agency, what we should work more with is just trying to, how can we provide the grounds for this sort of thinking? How can we create this cross-section collaboration and get this more holistic approach?
So at the Swedish EPA, will you have more persons with medical background, do you think, in the future? Or how many are you in the Swedish EPA?
Well,
I mean, is this something that will be more emphasized in the future?
I'm not sure exactly how many we are. I think I'm the only one actually at the moment. But what we've seen is that there's a lot of interest around these questions, and I think especially now around the pandemic, it's really highlighted this connection between health and nature, and between health and our cities. So I really hope that we will see more of this sort of generalist backgrounds and sort of cross-sectional work within the agencies.
A question to you, Lisa. I was thinking about this, that you shouldn't plan around the vehicles or the electric vehicles. So what is the main focus when you do plan a new area in the city?
Well, I think we are getting, again, we're standing where we are now, leaving the car behind us more and more, regardless how it's run, and I think we're having a more stronger focus on the human. Who are we building our cities for? Who are living in the city? It's not the car, it's us as humans. We have to be there, and we have to, as you say, Robert, we have to be able to interact, to see each other, to feel part of our community where we live. And if, we let the streets to the car, we won't do that. The streets are for the people, The hierarchy of traffic has to change. Walking humans have to be on top, and then a car, then it's bicycles and other means of transport like buses and trams and so on. And then it has to be the car. And in some streets, hopefully no cars, only cars for delivery, or if you're disabled. We have to start reclaiming the streets and reclaiming the cities, I would have to say, and plan that from the beginning.
Yeah, Sandra, back to you, because I know as a real estate owner, you really don't want to build the garages and the parking places because it's quite expensive. Mm-hmm. So how are you thinking about this issue? I mean, how are the houses planned now, as you see it, the coming years, or in the projects you're working on now? Is it central or not?
No, it's not central. We can already see in some really big garages that people are planning what to use them for instead of cars, because they're getting in some spaces more and more empty. But I'm thinking about another thing when we're talking here, and it's about the beauty of a city, and also the health aspect on how we perceive our city, we as human beings. And also what I can see being a lot in this area where we have built the wooden houses already and taken care of what we think is beauty, but it's also something, the architecture, that's very important. And when you are out sitting there, you can see that people are actually going back to the house and strike it. They want to feel it because it's a wooden facade. And also when it's raining, you can feel the smell of it, because the humidity it gives and that is something also in that we need to take into our cities in the future. What do we want, or what makes us happy? Both beauty, but also the smell. To change that from smelling the cars and to smelling good materials, planting more trees, planting more, give the children opportunity of planting. We can do that as a developer, planting bushes that are with raspberries, or or trees that have apples, to give that back to the city, and especially to the children that we can see now that they don't even know too early that an apple is growing on a tree.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I think we should, I want to have some final words from each one of you. I think I have two thoughts, and one is what is going to happen the coming 5 years, but also how do you see that Sweden can cooperate with other countries in this issue? Are you doing that already, or because Smart City Sweden is about cooperation between Sweden and other cities and other countries. So both these two things, how can we cooperate with other countries? Can we learn from them? What can they learn from us? And what will we see in the coming 5 years when it comes to health in cities?
I think we're already today having a lot of collaboration, I think, globally. We'd see, I mean, when we look at examples now for how different cities are planning and how they're incorporating health, I mean, we look at the international aspects, and there's a lot of good examples out there. And I think there are good ways of how you can collaborate and how you can kind of share the knowledge between different cities, because I think also cities are more alike than you might think across the globe. I mean, I might actually have more in common a city in Sweden with a city in South America than we might have with a neighboring city in Sweden sometimes, in the way we have our infrastructure, in the way we think. So I think there's a lot of good opportunities there for sharing this knowledge, and we can see that Sweden is doing well on some parts, and other countries and other cities are doing very well on other parts. So I think we can really learn from each other there. And I don't really know where we're going in 5 years from now. I don't have a good answer to that. But I would sort of like to take the opportunity now as the final sort of words to really say that I think health is a very good opportunity if we don't see it as a trade-off, but more of this chance to create collaboration and to think holistically and to find these novel solutions.
Thank you. And Lisa, what do you say?
Well, I think collaborations are always important, and we do have quite a few, and especially with the universities as well. But we can always have more collaboration. We can learn more from each other, and just like Robert says, it's interesting to work with cities or countries that are quite different to yours, because there's still a lot of common issues and touching points that we can, develop together. In the next 5 years, I think the focus, or I hope the focus, will be more on the human scale of the city. The accessibility, walkability, and the playability, and also incorporating the UN Act on the rights of the child more and more, to see children as beings and not becomings, that they are here and now and their needs are here and now, and it's not in the future. They don't walk around waiting to become adults and think, once I'm an adult, then my life starts. So I think that is very important to bring in, and hopefully more streets for the humans and the human scale.
And Sandra, what would you say?
I'm thinking about all these wooden buildings and the possibility and the opportunity that we have right now. And also Sweden's position in the way of where we are located in the world, because we have so much forest, but that is also something that we have done or planted. We were also a country of deforestation about 100 years ago, but had a government that made new legislation already by then. So that said that for each tree you take down, you have to plant a new one. And that industry and learning how to use the forest has built up our fantastic welfare system. And that is something that we need to go out and tell the world. And regarding to the climate question, is really we all need to plant more trees and use them, because that is the building in wood is the only renewable building material that there is. And something that, as long as we replant, we also have a construction material.
So thank you very much, Lisa, Robert and Sandra, for your interesting input to this discussion. And now over to Lisa Perjo from IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute, and Helena Rojas from Botkyrka Municipality. We are going to discuss inclusiveness in cities and why that is important. So Lisa, what would you say that we mean with inclusiveness in urban development from your experience?
Yes, I would say that we mean the kind of processes for urban development where you include and give an actual impact to the local community members. And I think inclusive urban development should include both the kind of processes that are organized by the municipality, kind of official participatory processes, but also the kind of initiatives taken by the inhabitants themselves, where they mobilize and activate themselves to promote sustainability and social sustainability in their areas. And I would also like to emphasize the need for thinking of the local communities not as a homogeneous group, but instead seeing that they consist of different groups and different kinds of people with different needs and different preconditions based on age or gender or socioeconomic status, for example.
So, I mean, what can you achieve then? How can you improve the social sustainability by including these groups in the urban planning?
Well, you can, for example, build better social cohesion in their areas, and you can empower these groups to have an influence on their living environment. But you can also use, for example, environmental projects to employ people in those areas. For example, in Sweden, there are quite many examples where energy efficiency renovations have been made, and they have then hired local young people for trainings, internships, and hired local unemployed people in this renovation processes.
And what have they achieved by doing this to include or to hire people from the neighborhood?
Well, it can be a way of course, improving the employment situation for those people in those areas, and of course, it also increases the legitimacy of the project.
Yeah.
In the local community in many cases where it can involve them, and you can show that it also brings something positive to the area.
And Botkyrka, how have you been working with this to include different groups in the urban planning and the development of different areas?
Well, we have been working a lot with this for several years, but also recently we had like a political will to take the next step, from as we usually work to collaborate or cooperate with the civil society, to have partnerships with the civil society. And very related to what Lisa is saying is that our drive and like to do this, or the political drive to do this, is that from this we create more equality, but also more social innovation. So partly, as Lisa is explaining, that we can create jobs through different projects, but we can also create new thinking by involving the civil society. And in Botkyrka we have been building this up for at least 10 years or more, I would say. And we have a couple of structures already, like our youth council that gathers youth from the whole Botkyrka that are between 13 and 22, and they are like an advisory board for the politicians. And important to say also is that Botkyrka is the most ethnic diverse municipality in Sweden. So we have like 100 people with origins in 160 countries. We talk 100 languages in Botkyrka, so it's a very diverse place, and also segregated between. So it's very important for us to involve, and we have different things like One interesting thing that I think it could be like interesting for others is that we work with a media house, local media house in Botkyrka. Every year they hire like summer job like youth working during the summer to do this magazine that is about different sustainable development goals. But it's their story about how it is to live in Botkyrka, their thinking. And now we are going to have like a political debate through these articles about the different sustainability goals. We also work with universal design. That's about, it's a very much focus on disabled citizens, but the idea with universal design is to involve citizens, to design different parts of the city so they are accessible to all the citizens. And when you work through the perspective of disabled citizens, then you create open places for everyone. And we have one of these, the latest one is Barnslättsparken in Tullinge. That's a very good example on this, where it has been a participatory process. So these are some of the different activities we do. So it's both mindset, like I said, from cooperation to partnership, and also do things, concrete things to go from words to action. So that's what we are doing all the time in different ways.
So as the question, because is this specific projects, or is this something that you do in general when you plan or develop the city?
No, it was a long time ago we let this project thinking go. But from a start, if there are citizen groups that have a wish to start something, then of course it could be said to be a project, because you don't know if it will be long term. But the idea is always we don't support things that we don't think will have long-term sustainability. So no, we don't work in projects more than like this park. Of course, it's a project. You have a beginning and an end.
Of course.
But with citizens groups, we work all the time. We never stop. But it's on their initiative almost always.
And by the politicians, I was thinking about a little bit. Is it general all over the different parties that they think this is important?
Yes. The idea of working with the citizens as a major engine for sustainable development is cross-political. Last year the politicians decided upon a new document that we call generation document. That's called Ett hållbart Botkyrka, a sustainable Botkyrka. That's a 30-year perspective, and this was. All the letters, all the text in this document are agreed upon and worked through from the left party to the conservative party. So the content in this document is cross-political. But of course, every political ideology has different ways of thinking on how you will create a sustainable development in practice. So if the Conservative Party will be like in majority in Botkyrka, there will be maybe other things that they did in this direction, but they have the same goal. So this is very, very important for long-term sustainability.
Yeah, I really agree. So Lisa, you want to include different citizens in the urban planning, but how can you recruit these different citizens, and how do you know that these really represent the city?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question that I think everyone who is working in this with this in practice is always struggling with. But I think one important kind of starting point is to actually analyze and have a knowledge of the local area where you're working, that you know what kind of challenges are there in this area. And there's one, I think, interesting example from Stockholm, where a real estate company called Sveafastigheter and White Architects have been working on building rental housing, especially for families with children, in an area where they've seen that there are many children with low school results, and there's a high level of segregation, and many children live in very small apartments, and that has an influence on on their schoolwork. And they have taken this as a kind of point of departure, and they've involved the inhabitants in the area, and they've designed a rental housing where they actually have a shared space for schoolwork, where they also have school help free of charge, and they give some share of the apartments to, especially for families with single parents, and they involve the children in designing the surrounding areas as well, so it can be a nice place to spend time in and to connect with others. So I think important starting point is always to look at the place where you are and involve the different groups and think about that what you do can contribute to something else than just building a house, that you can actually contribute to the development of the area and the people in that area in different ways.
I was also thinking about, because you say that it's the local conditions that this is the most important, but what are the general findings on this? I mean, are there general methodology that can be used by other cities?
Yes, there are of course many methodologies for analyzing and for example analyzing synergies and conflicts between sustainable development goals, and then there are many guidebooks about the participatory methods as well that can be used. So it's you don't have to start from scratch. You can always find a lot of literature, a lot of research about this.
You're also involved in, is it European Commission?
European Council.
European Council, yes, working with these issues. Is it also high on the agenda within the European Union?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are members of a European Council network that's called Intercultural Cities, and the whole like a very important part. You can't create interculturality if you don't interact with civil society, because interculturality, you could say, is about complexity. You could say to just acknowledge that the like development is complex. So, and how can you as a municipality have all the answers? It's not possible to find solutions to complex social or environmental situations. You have to involve the civil society. So yes, it's a very important part, and the Intercultural Cities Network is a network of cities that are committed to do some local work, you know. So it's a very hands-on network, and I could really recommend it to others, because, you know, we get help from each other's. For example, big cities like Barcelona, they worked with a concept that's called anti-rumors work, and I think this could be applicable also to the environmental and climate, you know, a movement, because it's about rumors about, in this aspect, it's about rumors about people that you don't know about, you know. And as we are such a diverse municipality in Botkyrka, many people talk about our citizens in strange ways, and it's a technique, as for example, that we have like imported from Barcelona, that we are working, and now we are spreading it in Sweden. Through the Swedish footprint of the network, but also through another platform that's called UNESCO Lux, that is a national platform, and this is the Klokboken, the wise book after 6 years about what we have done. And the whole concept, but why I also talk about UNESCO Lux, is because the whole concept, and I think this is applicable to the environmental movement as well, you know, we have to work together. So we work through pilots in UNESCO Lux, and all the pilots have to have these three, you know, the municipality or public administration, the civil society, but also support from research. So no one of these three can solve complex problems or challenges together, but together we can. So that's the whole concept, you know. So it's intercultural cities, but it's UNESCO Lux. We always try to find this like places where we can work together, and that's how we're solving bit by bit in Botkyrka, you know, our challenges, you could say.
Yeah. What would you say, what kind of knowledge do you still lack, or what do you need?
Lots.
Yeah, lots.
I would say I would say, you know, we as a municipality, we have 6,000 employees, 330 directors, managers, you know, and of course it's not, you know, the perspective to work, you know, it's a view on people, on humans, you know, you have to, it's a mindset about how you see the citizens, you know, if you think that they are part of the solution. Of course, in an administration like Botkyrka or any, you know, not everyone has this mindset. So I would say the major challenge is to everyone to get this mindset, because then you start working, you know. So, and sometimes we say that if you work in Botkyrka, you have to like complexity, otherwise you maybe should work somewhere else.
Okay.
You can say that.
I think it's relevant for many cities that it's always very complex.
Yes.
So Lisa, what would you say? I mean, when it comes to research and knowledge that needs to develop more, I mean, what would you say? What would you like to work with in the coming years?
Yeah, well, I agree a lot with Helena about the awareness, and that you have to, I think the important starting point is that the policymakers are aware of that these issues need to be taken into consideration. That's like the first step. You have to know that you have to work with your citizens, together with your citizens, and you have to be aware of that the decisions you take that maybe are very nice and very good for the environment may actually have negative effects on some of your citizens, and that you have to think about that if you, for example, decide to focus on biking, you have to think about the fact that maybe not all of your citizens can use the regular bikes, or that they have different needs if you want to really promote that everyone can bike. So I think that kind of awareness is really kind of the first step that we need, so that we can actually also address the potential conflict, but also that we can utilize the synergies, so that we can make sure that when we do environmental projects, we also use them to strengthen equality, gender equality, and also reducing other inequalities. So I think there's still a lot to be done about that.
So I mean, it's what I hear you saying is that the knowledge is not lacking. It's more that we need to work with this even more to have better awareness among all the city planners in the cities and the developers and all the people working in the cities.
Yeah.
So, because otherwise it's difficult to know it, and you can't understand really if it's how to include different groups. But just also, I would like to ask this question again. I mean, how do you make sure that these groups, the civil society, is really representing the area or the city?
Yeah, it's an ongoing work that never ends, because if we like include a new group, like for example, we found by accident, I would say, a group of self-organized refugees in Botkyrka, an association. And actually we had been working in UNESCO Looks with a pilot on intercultural refugee reception that's very much about self-organizing. And then we said, how are we going to create this self-organization of refugees? We can't create it as an administration. And then suddenly when I was in a place talking about this, a woman says, I do that, you know, a woman that has origin in Syria that came 2015. And I said, oh, wow, here in the Stockholm region, where? And she says, Tullinge, and that's part of Botkyrka. And I said, what? You know, so it's always to have this, you know, try to have the helicopter view, always think that you're missing something, and you will never find, you know, you will never get the whole picture of your own municipality even, but you have to have this openness, you know, to know that you don't have everyone in, you know, to have the right conversations. And the only thing we can do is to really have this mindset that we are letting people in. We have this in an ongoing discussion all the time. You know, this afternoon I'm going to do we did a corona analysis of the socioeconomic situation last year, for 1 year ago, with the civil society. This afternoon we are going to like update that, and it's all the time who is missing in the room, you know. So that's the questions we have to learn to ask the right questions, I would say, because we will never be perfect, but we can be humble.
That sounds very good. So some final words, Lisa. What would you say with how can we improve the sustainability in the cities by inclusiveness? What would you like to see the coming years?
Yeah, well, I would still maybe also say that it's the awareness that we have to know that we have to do it, and that we understand that, like Helena is saying, that we have different groups in our cities, and what we do has different different effects on the different groups. I think that's really the key for us to get further on.
Yeah, and Helena, what would you like to see?
I would like also to say that there are tools actually to handle complexity. So this thing I didn't mention before, but we have this dilemma workshop concept that we work with in Botkyrka, that I also have been working with the Council of Europe, like spreading this tool. And it's about, handling complex or conflicts. Human rights conflicts could be, a situation. So there are easy methods, actually. You just have to know about them to get the next step, to get forward. So the methods are seldom that complicated. You just have to find them, And this is, so I would say, combine what Lisa said to this, that there are methods to start doing things, and you can always improve the methods, but just start and get further than you were yesterday. So yeah.
So thank you very much, Lisa and Helena, for your participation here, and thank you from Smart City Sweden, and
thank
welcome.
You for inviting.
Yeah, thank you. And now we welcome Maria Egertsen-Teder from National Board for Housing and Planning, and we are going to discuss placemaking and why it is important in urban planning.
Well, placemaking is about the simultaneous building of physical places and relationships, that is, relationships between people and between people and places. It's about generating place attachment, which is an emotional bond by means of built structures. And so place attachment has a physical as well as a social dimension, where the physical dimension is about interacting with built structures by building, using, and maintaining them.
So, and what benefits can you have from using placemaking as a method in urban planning? What can you achieve?
Well, on the individual level, placemaking and place attachment generates well-being and rootedness for the individual. And by involving citizens in the planning, building, and maintenance of public places, this emotional bond can be extended beyond one's own home and the private domain to public space. And on a societal level, this makes people take better care of their surroundings while establishing relationships to their co-citizens. And the placemaking process is also a good occasion to raise awareness about other issues, for instance, climate-friendly building and maintenance, and for people to meet across gaps generated by, for instance, age or cultural differences.
And are there developed methods for this, and how long has it been used?
Well, on all levels in society, Sweden pays great attention to the everyday environments of children and young people. And when developing the physical places in which their childhood, so to speak, take place, much can be done to increase their level of participation and involvement. Since 2018, Sweden has a national policy about designed living environments. And this policy has been adopted by the Parliament. And an overarching objective of this policy is to facilitate for everyone to influence the development of our shared surroundings, the designed living environment. And in this policy, spaces for children and young people is one prioritized area, and I quote, "Decisions about the designed living environment that affect children and young people should have their best interests at heart." And the policy thus supports bringing participation and inclusion down to the physical place itself. And in this, in the work with implementing this policy, the public sector should act as a role model. And the National Board of Planning, Building and Housing, where I work, is one of 4 government agencies with the responsibility for providing guidance and leading various knowledge-raising initiatives in this context. And as part of that work, we are developing guidance for municipalities and other providers for high quality, accessible and sustainable schools and preschools, both indoors and outdoors. And on the municipal level, municipalities across the country are developing planning strategies for inclusion of children and young people. And there, the city of Gothenburg has been a forerunner since long, having established a solid method for analyzing the consequences for children and young people of various planning proposals. And as a tool, they have developed a chart covering all urban scales from the place itself and its neighboring surroundings to the city district, the city, and the region. And together with young people and children, all these urban scales, so to speak, are analyzed in terms of safe mobility and access to recreational spaces, culture, and a healthy environment. And also across the country, there are various action research projects being carried out to develop new methods for including children and young people in the development of their everyday environments. And one example of that is Equalizer, which is a project in Lund in southern Sweden, where architects and pupils have worked with co-designing equitable and norm-challenging schoolyards that also encourage physical activity. And one result of this is an outdoor gym promoting characteristics such as suppleness rather than physical strength, and thereby encouraging teenage girls to become and stay physically active during breaks.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, Maria. And what would you say? I mean, this is a policy and now it's being implemented. How far have we come in Sweden when it comes to the different municipalities to implement this perspective?
I think we have come quite far. There are, as I said, there are more and more municipalities developing these kind of planning strategies for analyzing consequences, and also various initiatives investigating new methods and also analyzing the results of the involvement itself.
Thank you very much, Maria, for participating today, and looking forward to meet you again here at Smart City Sweden.
Thank you.
So now we welcome Tove Ahlström. You are the CEO of Global Utmaning, Global Challenge, and you are an independent think tank working with policy impact focusing on sustainable development. You also have a consultative status to United Nations. Please welcome. So please, Tove, tell us about your project, Her City.
So this is a project that we have done in Botkyrka as a suburb to Stockholm, where we used girls as the experts in the participatory design and planning of their city, of their square. So the girls, they were used as experts, and they also got paid. So for participating in this. And together with the local decision makers, with the municipality, with the owner of the buildings around this square, they were doing different kinds of steps, looking at the city. What is a frightening place for a girl? what could be nicer, where could we have more lights, and they did an assessment of the area first. So they did some urban girls walks together with researchers also, and the girls and these municipality persons from decision makers from the municipality walking around this Fittja Square and addressing different kinds of places.
Yeah, and how serious did the municipality take these girls who were involved in the process?
Oh, they did take them very seriously because they were the experts in this project. So they, they came up with different kinds of examples where they could improve the city to make it nicer. And we also used, we used Minecraft. So they did a whole of the square in Minecraft, and the girls could build new stuff in the square to get it more cozy, get it more nicer, greener, more nice to hang out.
What was the main result from this, and what was important for the girls?
Yeah, the result was that, they wanted to have more biking lanes instead of parking lots. They wanted to have more chess playing grandfathers rather than surveillance cameras. They made these dark tunnels we don't want to go through when you're at night and alone. They made them more lighter. When there were bushes, they took away the bushes and planted trees and flowers. Also, a bush is very nice to have. And they made it more public transport instead of cars. So it was a lot of different, and all of the results made the city more nice and environmentally friendly, and also friendly for the humans living there.
So it had a great impact on the city and urban development, but what impact did it have on the girls?
Yeah, so this is young girls far away from power, and they were the leaders and the experts. So now some of them are going to the university, and they became role models for their families, for their siblings, and for their neighbors. So it's actually a huge impact on the local environment in this socioeconomical disadvantaged area. So that is also a very nice or very important side effect.
So this is just one good example from Botkyrka, but if you want to scale this, how can you do that?
Yes, so this is very good, because this was first 2 years project with funding from Vinnova, and then the Swedish Innovation Agency, and now we have got two more years. And those 2 years we made this standardized toolbox. And this toolbox is of 9 different blocks, and they could be found on UN Habitat's webpage. So search for UN Habitat and Her City Toolbox. So it's open and it's accessible, so you can just go there and do a Her City yourself.
So what is happening now after Botkyrka and the development of this tool? Will it be used in other cities?
Yes, actually, we're doing one in Lima in Peru, one in Johannesburg in South Africa, and we are looking for a place, a city in Asia. I don't think the place has been decided yet. And actually, there is one more Her City in Flemingsberg right now. Flemingsberg is in the southern part of Stockholm.
So if you take this tool to other cities, what are the similarities or what are the differences? Can you really use this exactly as you have used it in Botkyrka? So do you need to make any adjustments?
No, you don't need to do adjustments, because all the blocks in this toolbox is you can use it wherever. You can use it in Nairobi or in Kiruna or wherever you like. So you have to do the steps really carefully and make sure that all the actors in the city are participating. So you have the municipality, and you have the ones who are owning the houses around the blocks. You have the people living there, and of course this is called the Her City Toolbox. So we have made it with girls. That was far away from power, but of course you can use it with boys or men also. So this is only one of the groups that was vulnerable and far away from power.
So what are the main social challenges that you can see and address with this Her City Toolbox?
Yeah, I see that the municipalities and the ones that are in power and decision makers, they are very unused to listen to the girls or to the people living in the city. So they are used to doing this more by themselves. So this is they are unused to this. But when they are doing it, they feel that it is fun, and they give them new ideas that already are accepted by the local community. So this is one of the, they are having more fun at work, everybody.
When listening to you, Tove, I can hear that using Her Toolbox, it makes the urban planning much more human. What do you see now? What will happen with Her Toolbox?
Yes, we really would like to have more people using it, because now we have made the process and we are really thorough, and now we also made it standardized and it's up and running. It was launched at the 8th of March on the International Women's Day, and now you can find it on UN Habitat's webpage. So just go there and try it out, and everybody can use it. I get a lot of questions, but I'm a civil society group. Can I use it? Yes, everybody can use it, but the best is to use it together with different kind of sectors together. And we are actually looking for more partners to partner up with us, so we can train them, so that this toolbox get wings, because this is a very good solution to all the urban planning problems we have seen in the world today. So please use it.
Thank you so much, Tove, for coming here and tell us about your project, Her Toolbox. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to us today, and please visit our webpage smartcitysweden.com.